Hey y'all, and welcome to the Max Life. So since we're showing and talking about all things eggs today, the incubators are down to about 6 days. Now, I have not checked any of the eggs. I've kind of gotten out of the habit over the years of hatching of candling them to see which ones are good and which ones are not good. I usually just let that be a surprise at the end. But since we're on the subject of eggs today, one of the things that I wanted to turn you guys on and talk about was I feel like there are a lot of questions about water glass and eggs. Now, you can see that I still have a pretty good section of water glass eggs left. Not as much as I would like, and I'm going to get into all that in just a minute. But I do absolutely love water glass and eggs. It is something I have done for years and years now. And I've also, about 2 years ago, I did a whole class on water glass and eggs because it is just so darn easy, y'all. At the Okie Homesteading Expo, I did a whole session on how to preserve your eggs, to put them over on the shelf and make them last for years. Now, I am down into most of my eggs from last year, which I did not water glass a lot of eggs last year because I had so many from 2022. So these are all 2023. So I am down to 2023 eggs, but using those eggs, y'all, it is 2025. March of 2025. So these are from March of 2023, 2 years old, and they are still perfectly fine. But there are a lot of things that I want to cover, I want to talk about. I have a whole video on how to water glass eggs. I tried to cover in that video as many questions as I had already gotten in the past couple of years. But there have been a few other things pop up that I just wanted to address to make sure that you guys were not wasting and knew exactly what to do on water glass and eggs. So here's the first thing. I saw a reel, and I'm not big on social media. I actually deleted I didn't fully delete my account, but I deleted the app off of my phone. I just don't have time for a whole lot of the scrolling. But I do have some friends that I keep up with on Instagram. They are farm related and stuff like that, because I don't have a lot of time to watch YouTube either. So I try to keep up with some of my friends on Instagram. I feel like it's a whole lot less chaotic maybe than the Facebook world. I don't know. But I just happened to get on a couple of days ago, and as I'm scrolling through looking at some of my friends' pictures, so this girl pops up and she's got a 5-gallon bucket pretty much like this one, and she's telling about how she's gonna put 10 dozen eggs in her bucket and she's gonna water glass them. And here's the problem with that, y'all. I have, for example, this is not even a gallon, okay? This is one of my smaller jars. So I have this size water glass eggs. We're going to talk about this in just a minute. And I also have this little bit bigger jar, which is more of your gallon size jar. So here's the thing. When you start filling this up with 120 eggs essentially, because if you're doing 10 dozen in here, 10 times 12, 120, that's a lot of weight. And probably without me even telling most of y'all, you can probably guess what will happen to the bottom layer of eggs as you keep stacking more and more weight on top of very fragile eggs, is that you're going to come back to that 5-gallon bucket. You're going to take the top off. It's going to probably not smell great, and we're going to talk about some of those things in just a minute. I'm working on getting there. And you're going to think, oh no, all of my eggs are bad. The water stinks. My eggs have busted in the bottom. And here's my problem with that. You're going to lose a lot of eggs because of the weight. Yes, the weight essentially is the problem, because when you fill up this whole container of bucket, I mean, yes, I get it that it's ideal. Finding glass jars are kind of a pain in the butt. And I'm going to give y'all some tips there in just a minute as well. But essentially, my main problem is the weight. You're going to be wasting more eggs than what it's even worth trying to water glass your eggs because of the weight. Weight is an issue. I'm telling y'all, First off, don't get on these social media sites and see somebody do a reel, especially somebody that you don't know. I just had a local friend call me the other day. I was actually super busy. To be completely honest with you, I didn't have time to catch the phone. It was just a bad time, which is usually like the story of my life, right? Because I'm constantly running. So she tells me that she had done some tinctures, and instead of reaching out to reputable sources where she could get good information, whether it's going to books or people that have done this for a really long time, she didn't do that. She went to a reel and mocked this person on a reel and ended up losing a lot of her tinctures, because the very first problem was that she didn't use an alcohol that was high enough in proof. So she was seeing ruin in her tinctures because the alcohol, so you need a proof of 80 or higher. Hers was only 40. So that was problem number one. But before, I don't want to get into all those stories. I'm just saying that is just one example. So when I come across this girl who is so excited about showing y'all how to put all of her 10 dozen eggs in her bucket, I'm going, girlfriend, like, you wait till you get into that bucket and you're going to probably lose half of your eggs. But I don't want y'all to fall in those traps. So make sure the things that I teach you and I show you, I have been doing for many, many years. And the 5-gallon bucket is not the best option, y'all, okay? In my opinion, it's not an option at all. I wouldn't water glass eggs in a 5-gallon bucket. Not only that, but you also have your lime that I wouldn't want in plastic for a long time. That's just my personal preference. I would rather have glass jars. Now, here is another thing about the glass jars. How did I acquire all of these glass jars? These, my friends, are pickles. They're just pickle glasses. Now, how did I get them? Reaching out in the community. I told my community that I was looking for glass jars. I actually had 2 friends message me back. One said, hey, my daughter is at the snowball stand. I will tell her, instead of throwing the glass jars away, to pack those up and bring those to you. So I was able to get some from her. I also had a cousin whose son plays baseball, and the mom was heavily involved in the concession stand at the baseball field, and she began to also gather pickle jars for me. Now, here's the thing, y'all. I don't have just a couple. So we worked on this for a long time, and of course all of those jars that you see over there, all of these jars are empty, and those are because I've used all of my water glass eggs from those jars. Now, here's another thing. If you can tell the shade difference in these 2 glass jars. So here's the thing. You're going to have some eggs that are going to crack. Not that you did anything wrong, but obviously you don't know how thick the shell is when you put them in the jar. So obviously it's hard for us to tell, hey, this shell is really, really thick and this one is really, really thin. You can't really measure that. It's kind of hard to determine. So some of them you're going to put in there, and the shells actually are going to be a little bit more thin than you would have hoped for. Obviously, you can see my watercolor difference. This one, I've had some to crack. This one, I have not. So because I've had an egg in here bust and it looks a little yellow, I can assure you that when I open this one up, it is not going to smell the best in the world. So here is what I do. I have been doing this for a long time, so I can vouch for what I'm telling you. When I get ready to open this jar, which is probably going to be in just a minute, I'm going to take all of my eggs out one by one in the sink, and I'm going to wash them off with cool water. You do not want to use hot water on these eggs because they will crack. So you want cool water. It doesn't have to be cold. I'm not telling you like it has to be an ice bath. I'm just telling you, put your water on cold and not hot. Rinse these eggs off really, really well. If there is no crack in your egg, put them either in a carton. I have a little yellow egg holder that I will wash all of my eggs off. I actually have 2 of them. I will line them in that and put them in the refrigerator. If your eggs from out of here, even though this water is not pretty and it doesn't smell good, if your eggs are not cracked, your eggs are fine. They had been sealed off not only by the bloom that the chicken puts on there, but because of this water is lime water, it goes in the rest of those pores and seals that egg off. So if your egg has not cracked, just wash it off, put it in the refrigerator, and I can assure you your egg is going to be fine. Now, I have pulled some out before and they would have a crack in them that would kind of be like a crusty type feel over the egg, or over that crack. Y'all just chunk it. Don't use those. Some of that is just going to happen, okay? You're talking years worth of preserving your eggs. But see, here's my thing. If somebody's going to say, oh, well, I've cracked an egg and, well, I'm only going to get maybe 3/4 of these eggs out. Why not want to do that? Okay, when winter comes, now my chickens are on up in age. If yours are still young and fresh, then they're probably still going to be mostly active of laying in the winter. However, if your girls are a little bit older like mine, when a hard winter comes, we were going from like 30 eggs a day down to, there were some days in the hard winter we were getting 1, maybe 3, maybe 6 on a really, really good day in the winter. That is not enough eggs to be sustainable for my family. So where did I come? To my jars. If there is, say, 20 eggs, just say 20 eggs in this jar, and 2 or 3 are bad, y'all, I still have 17 eggs to use. So it's like, I don't, that's just not a good rationale for me, okay? Even in here, if I pull 3 or 4 out that have the cracks in them with the little crusty stuff and you chunk them, so be it. I still have this whole jar of eggs that I can use. So that is my whole spiel on ones being opened. Y'all don't throw this whole jar away. That is a huge mistake. Those eggs are still fine. So I actually had someone tell me that they opened their glass jar and it didn't smell good and they trashed all the eggs. Huge mistake, y'all. Don't do that. There are going to be a couple in here that are not going to be good. Just a couple, okay? Y'all are going to have maybe a handful that are not good. Chunk those, but then you have all the rest of the eggs. My problem with the bucket and the weight is you're going to have a ton that are wasted because it is just too much weight. Yes, you may have a couple in there that are okay, but it's just not a good idea to put that many eggs in a container. It is just too much weight. Don't make that mistake either. So don't waste these. If the water doesn't smell the best, it's okay. Wash them off, put them in your refrigerator. That's usually what I do when I go ahead and open up my jar. I even want to show y'all this just because it is on here. If you see this little crusty stuff on top, y'all don't worry about that. It's the lime. Don't worry about it. It's where the lime hits the air. Your eggs are fine. If your eggs are in this water and you follow the 1 ounce of lime to 1 quart of water and your eggs are not cracked, your eggs are fine. Don't throw them away. Okay, so I've gone over the weight. I've gone over the cracked, the water. I've gone over the crusty stuff at the top. Now I want to talk about real quick. So I had someone make a comment that was like, how she's not using quart jars. Those jars are bigger. Y'all, I realize that, okay? Just because I'm taking, now this is lard, excuse this, but if I have my quart jar, y'all, this is just how I do it. You can do it however you want. I don't know specifically how many quarts are in this. I mean, I suppose I could measure it all out, but that just seems too complicated for me. Once I get my eggs neatly in my clean jar, I will come to a quart jar, okay, put my ounce of lime in there, fill it up with water, put a top on it, shake it up, pour it over my eggs. Guess what? It's not going to fill it up. I realize that. This jar is a little bit bigger than my quart. So I just do it again. Put your ounce of lime in, put your water over it, shake it up, pour it over your eggs. Obviously, you're going to want to do that till all of your eggs are covered. So I realized that these are not quarts. I've had some people say, well, she's not using quarts. I realize that. You can use your quarts and your ounces and use it separately and fill it up. It just seems to work best that way for me, instead of trying to determine how much is in here and then weigh it out per whatever. I just don't do that, okay? I try to make things real simple. Here's the other thing that I wanted to address with the water glass eggs. A lot of people have asked me, do you reuse your lime? And the answer to that for me is no, because I can buy pickle and lime. It's fairly inexpensive, y'all. It's not that pricey. So I don't personally want to take all these eggs out, jeopardize my new incoming eggs over a little bit of lime, because obviously my water is free, my jars were given to me, and then I have my precious eggs, right, that I'm trying to preserve. I don't want to risk that. I'm not saying that other people have not done it successfully. I'm just speaking from my personal preference and opinion. For a couple of cents that this cost me, I don't want to chance it. Thumbs up to anybody else who has done it with success. I just have never tried it. I will tell you, if that is something you were wanting to do, I maybe would not do all of my eggs. I maybe would take all of these out, make a note that this was my test batch, re-put my fresh eggs in here with the old lime, and just test it a year or so and see, hey, did that lime hold up? Is it worth it? But obviously, I wouldn't do all of them like that. So if that's something you're interested in doing, maybe do a test batch. I have suggested that. It's just not something for me that I'm willing to try to waste a lot of my eggs when your lime is only is going to weigh out to be a couple of cents per jar. Now, pickle and lime is another thing I've asked. Some people say, oh, well, I don't know what kind of lime. Usually your local hardware stores will have your pickle and lime that you want to use for your eggs as the preservative. Please don't go to the garden section and get lime for your yard. Please make sure you go to the canning section and look for the pickling lime. That is going to be what you want to put in for your eggs. Now, I have all the details on my video, so y'all please be sure if this is something you want to do to go, because there are things you need to know about. I've had people ask about using store-bought eggs and putting oil on those and all that kind of stuff. I address a lot of that in that video. It's just not something I personally would suggest to do, but I cover a lot of those details in that video, so y'all be sure to go check that out if you're interested in doing water, glass, and eggs. So I have also had some people make the comment, well, Misty, can I use store-bought eggs because I don't have chickens? Okay, I'm going to advise against that. For one, we just don't eat store-bought eggs because I don't know what all's been done to them or what's been fed to their chickens. So we use a Tucker Millen non-GMO feed, so it's important to us. I do a lot of foraging for my chickens. I want to know what my chickens are eating, because obviously the health of my chickens is going to determine what comes out in the egg. And if you've ever cracked open a store-bought egg to a farm fresh egg, obviously there's a huge difference. So we just don't eat store-bought eggs. We eat our own fresh eggs. But say that you don't have chickens because of where you live or your health or whatever your circumstance may be, I can assure you, if you ask around in your community, your church, your friends, whatever you're actively involved in, whether you're a teacher at school or whatever, your secretary job in an office, whatever, if you start asking around to say, hey, do y'all know anybody who has chickens and they're willing to sell a couple of dozen of eggs, a couple of, a month, I can assure you, you can find somebody that's going to be willing to sell you some farm fresh eggs. So it really won't be that hard to do. All you have to do is start asking around, and you can find some eggs, not only to start using for your family, but also to put some up in case you go to the store and eggs are $6 and $7 a dozen. You can pull your better quality eggs out and use those instead. Now, one more thing I want to touch on. I'm going to go back to my comments in just a minute and kind of scroll through just to make sure. But one thing that automatically comes to mind is some people will say, well, the consistency is so different. Yes, it is, because you're not using a straight up fresh egg out of the chicken coop. So you can't really compare the inside to that. So here's my thing. If you crack that egg and it smells good, I promise you it's going to cook up just fine. I've been doing this for a really long time. and I've never cracked open an egg and it be the same consistency as one right out of the coop, and that's okay. They still cook the same, they still taste the same, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. Now obviously if you cracked one open and it smelled bad, you would want to trash that egg, but the consistency is a little bit more loose. I do have a little bit more hard of a time. I can sometimes crack it without busting the yolk, but typically it's a little bit more runny, and that's okay, y'all. Like I said, it's gonna fry the same and it's gonna taste the same. And I'm gonna tell y'all my secret to what I do with my eggs pretty much all year. So like right now, I have a ton of eggs coming in. So I use all of my water glass eggs that may have a little bit more of that runny consistency in all of my cooking. So if I'm making pancakes or waffles or cakes or ice cream, whatever it is, that it doesn't really matter if the yolk is busted or not, I'm going to use my water glass eggs. I use this opportunity to be able to bless others. Obviously, I'm not water glassing right now. I really want to try to get through all of these eggs and then start my jars back up. So maybe within the next couple of weeks, I will start with 2025 and restocking. Y'all, this whole entire shelf right here that you see was full of water glass eggs. So I've been using this opportunity to carton up eggs. I have cartons right here. Plenty of extra cartons, and as people gift me these cartons, I turn around and fill them up with fresh eggs and gift them back to others. And obviously keeping enough for us because Colby likes sunny side up. He and Aiden both like to eat a lot of eggs. Eggs on meat, eggs on burgers, you know, eggs on salad, whatever. And I do prefer to boil farm fresh eggs and not specifically these. If you do boil these, just don't put them down in hot water, okay? Take your eggs and put them all cool temperature. Let it all heat up together. Don't drop your egg down in boiling hot water. It's not a good idea. So I use this time to just give eggs away until I'm ready to start water glassing again. So once I use all of my water glass eggs, then I'm going to continue to gather all of my fresh eggs. Repeat this whole entire process. I did not actually do any from 2024 because I still had, we're done with 2022. I still have 2023 that I'm using, but I'm going to start over with 2025. And until then, just give my eggs away, then get my jars back refilled. It really does not take that long when you're getting 30 plus out a day, which will fill up about, if I had to guess, I would say about 30 is in this jar. So 1 jar a day for all summer should easily fill up my jars again. Well, y'all, with all that being said, I hope this is a good teaching video on how to preserve your eggs. And like I told you guys, if you can't find glass, ask around. If you don't have chickens, ask around. You can make these things happen. And lime is pretty inexpensive. So you can make this work even if you don't have chickens. You just kind of have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, ask around, get fillers on your community. You will find somebody that works a concession stand, somebody that just wants to get rid of glass. I also had a lady call me one day and say that she had been to a yard sale, and she knew because I had been putting it out in my community, hey y'all, I need glass jars, hey y'all, I need glass jars. I will come get them, I will buy them. If somebody just wants to trash them, don't do that, I'll come get them. And so that I had one lady who knew I was looking for glass jars, and she said, hey, there is a huge box of pickle jars and they want $10 for this box. Do you want me to get them for you? And I said, yes, 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 yes. So she got them for me. I went to her house and picked them up. Y'all, it was a ton. So in between those jars and my friends that had the concession stands that were rotating in and out of the concession stands, bringing me 5 or 6 here and there, y'all, it really adds up, and that's free glass. So you really can do this. But I hope this was a way, if you've never heard of water glass and eggs, or even if you just had more questions about water glass and eggs, hopefully this kind of cleared some of that up. I have loved being able to have access to my fresh eggs. So I hope this will inspire you, encourage you, give you some ideas, or clear up any questions that you had about water glass and eggs. If you are unsure how to even start the process, like I told y'all in probably the middle of the video, please go check out my water glass and egg video. I did have a lot of people tell me thank you, thank you, thank you. It was so detailed. We feel so comfortable doing this now. And that was the whole goal of the video, is that I wanted to make it as clear as possible, explain out all the details on how the step-by-step. It is so darn easy, y'all. You can do it. And I wanted to make a great video for you guys so that you could feel confident in doing it. But even after a year or 2 or 3, you go to your pantry, and now they say 18 months on these. Y'all, mine are well over 2 years old. My suggestion would be, again, if the egg cracks and it doesn't smell good, don't use it. It's a pretty simple rule. That is just my rule on eggs, as well as all of my canned foods. So if you open it or you crack it and it doesn't smell good, don't use it. If it smells good and it looks fine, there's nothing wrong with it, y'all. So thank you for watching. As always, I hope this was a good educational video for you. And even like I said, if you don't have chickens, you can still make this work. So I hope it inspired you in some way. God bless and happy homesteading, y'all.